Welcome to this special edition just ahead of the budget. Today I have with me Bimal Jalan, the former Governor of Reserve Bank of India. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, sir, since budget is just around the corner, let me start by asking you about your expectations. So, what, in your view, the budget should look like?
It seems to me that we are all said and done. Obviously, there have been some criticisms and so on of demonetization policy, but taken as a whole, the economy. And in that context, the budget is very important because it is dealing with the economy as a whole.
Yes.
And also the policy making and so on. On the whole, India's situation is very positive.
Okay.
You see, our inflation is relatively low.
Yes.
Our growth is among the highest, one of the highest in the world.
Yeah.
We have the technology, we have the manpower, and if you look at the totality of the picture, it's very positive. This is, I think, a very important point to remember.
Right.
And in the present context, you see, when inflation is, as I mentioned, is relatively low and growth is high, that we are in a very comfortable situation. And that facilitates the making of the budget, particularly if you look at the whole fiscal picture. That's very positive at the moment. And whether it is 3.1 or 3.2, that is not fundamentally any significant of any great significance. But FRBM targets which are there, I'm sure they would be more or less close to that. And if you look at the positives on the fiscal front, you have a spectrum. So there is a large inflow of funds from there.
Right.
That's important. Then oil prices being low,
That's right.
that also gives an opportunity for us to have a larger revenue. And also at the same time, that combined with these two, if you also look at the normal increase in excise taxes in the previous couple of months and so on. So I think by and large we are in a very comfortable position, and the budget would reflect that. And it would build on that that positive front, I hope, mainly on the investment side.
But sir, since you mentioned about investments, over the past 3-4 years, investments have generally been low despite the impact caused by demonetization. So, in your view, what are the measures that the government needs to take?
So, public investment is of considerable importance, but now we are in a position to accelerate public investment. And the main issue there is that whether we can implement what we can do in financial terms. And the implementation part, the role of different ministries, etc., that is the most important part, governance, you might say. And so hopefully we will see a large increase in investment. It's not an easy problem in our country because we have the center, we have the states, and then we have the districts. And when you are talking about infrastructure, you are talking about the ground level things, or investment you are talking about. So it's not just monetary part. It's actually the physical part of that investment, which is important to implement. And I hope that can be done over a period of time.
And so in this budget, can we expect, or should we expect, some more public expenditure going in for the infrastructure space?
Yes, certainly. In terms of expectation.
Yes.
How it actually is formulated, that's for the finance ministry and the finance minister to decide what is the best kind of format for the budget. I can't comment on that part. But yes, from our country's point of view, investment increase, capital expenditure is vital. And at the same time, the revenue expenditure is also important from the subsidy point of view. So we have two sides of the coin. One is investment, and the second is subsidies for the poor.
And so you think the government is now in a comfortable position to increase public expenditure?
Yes. No, there is no doubt. They have done very well in terms of keeping the fiscal issues under control and public investment side. Now, the main thing, as I mentioned earlier, is the implementation part. And we have a very large number of ministries which have to coordinate. Whatever you do in our country requires at least 5-6 ministries to be involved. Now, we have to try and devise a governance mechanism whereby the responsibility, once, all of us can get together and decide that this needs to be done, that priority has to be given here or there or whatever, in terms of our country's interests.
So since this budget comes soon after the demonetization drive, and numbers suggest, and many analysts and economists have said that growth, investments and manufacturing sector, all of these has taken a hit. So, and also the spendings. So do you think the budget should come up with some kind of initiatives to give a boost, some kind of incentives maybe for the manufacturing sector?
No. You see, demonetization is past.
Right.
Let's look at the future. So the impact of demonetization, whatever it is, would have to be taken into account in the formation of the budget. But that per se does not, does not create a problem from the budgetary point of view. In terms of subsidies and so on, there is a fundamental case for making sure that that in our country, the nutrition, health, and also to the extent possible literacy is given maximum advantage irrespective of the levels of income.
So let's talk a little bit about demonetization. Your assessment, the way it was implemented, the role of RBI since you have held that position. So what is your take on this entire thing?
No, I think let's wait and watch.
Okay.
I mean, I can't make any comment on this just now. Let us wait and watch. There is a lot of discussion that has already happened. So I don't want to get into that part. Let's look ahead rather than look back.
And so a little bit on the implementation, was there something that could have been done in a better way?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of policy, whatever you do on the ground, yes, I mean, but this was a new experience.
Yeah.
But if you talk about better way, I mean, it is that if you are looking ahead and if you want to say better ways, I mean, we have done monetization for a period of a year, a month and a half, a month and 3, from 8th November to 30th December. So some lessons would have been learnt. Right. How to implement, how to go ahead, and what is to be done to prevent the discomfort of a very large segment of the population. And so, I mean, all that is part of the learning process, and I think we would have taken that into account. And hopefully this would help us in framing a policy framework for handling black money. You see, the fundamental was the black money part, which it has had a substantial impact on reducing the scope of black money. So let us concentrate on the fundamental.
So would also like to understand from you, how does actually the RBI governor function? The limitations, the restrictions within which he has to perform. Are there any limitations and restrictions? How is it to be the governor of RBI?
So far as the Reserve Bank of India is concerned, it has a responsibility and a task in the monetary policy area. Right. And that is very fundamentally linked with inflation. And that part in our country also is linked to ensuring that what we do in respect of inflation control or inflation management is also consistent with higher growth rates. So it's not an easy job. I mean, in the sense that you have to take a view. And so it is all done in consultation with the government, because the government is, after all, in charge of the economic part as a whole. Economic questions and fiscal policy is important. So when you talk about the role of the RBI has a role which is in the monetary area, interest rates and also creation of money, debt management. So all that has to be done consistent with what the overall policy framework is. So it is all combined, government, RBI, economy.
So you're saying it should not be Finance Ministry versus RBI?
Not at all.
It should be Finance Ministry and RBI.
Absolutely, it is always so.
Yeah. But sir...
I feel in difficult... You see, no, but just concentrate on one point. Ultimately, government is responsible to Parliament in our democracy, which is the largest democracy in human history. Number of people.
Yeah.
So and it's responsible, whatever is done in terms of economy, the government is responsible to Parliament. So all the organs of the government have to work in consonance with the economic policy perspective which has been announced. I'm sorry to evade your question, but the main issue is that we can talk about autonomy, which is extremely important, that you are given a task and you have to perform it. But that task, performance of that task has to be consistent with other aspects of the economy. And that's where the consultation process between the government and the RBI is of utmost importance.
So one small question about the demonetization thing. Do you think the re-injection, remonetizing the economy could have been done faster?
I can't say what could have been. sorry to evade this.
Let me rephrase my
No, sorry to evade these issues. Anything can be done faster or sooner, but it depends on the circumstances that you are facing.
So if you were the governor at this point,
I'm glad I am not the governor. It's a tough job. It's not the timing issue, it's a tough job.
So your overall assessment of the economy and the growth at this point of time, now that demonetization is over, though the impact I think is still there and will be there. So how would you assess?
All the estimate that you see, the rate of growth in this year would be lower by say 0.5%, 0.6% to what was anticipated earlier. The Reserve Bank had given you a figure of 7.1, some time ago in October or something. Now, so everybody is expecting that growth rate would be lower than what was anticipated at that point of time. But whether it is and then the figures differ, as you know. By experts and so on and so forth. So let's wait and see. And the government would then take steps. If there is a downfall in say capital expenditure, it should increase capital expenditure. We have the means to do that.
Thank you so much for watching. Keep watching for more stories and updates on the economy, finance, infrastructure, and of course the budget.